Hi, it's Eva Cartman, and you're listening to the Dream Big Podcast Show, the place to go, to learn, laugh, and grow. Today we welcome Cal Fussman, who's widely considered to be the world's most skilled interviewer. So you can imagine how excited I was to chat with him. And even better, I was able to meet Cal and do the interview in person. This is episode 85, Big Dreamers, and it is time to dream big.
Welcome to the Dream Big Podcast Show. We're inspiring you to shoot for the moon, take aim and go. We bring to you amazing guests who truly love what they do. Every day they're living their dreams, and so can you. Dream big, take action to reach your goals. Are you pumped yet? It's showtime, let's rock and roll.
Welcome to the Dream Big Podcast Show. I am your host, Steva Cartman. And today, I'd like to start by turning it over to my mom for a quick word about a very exciting course that we are creating. This is the last time we'll be offering the opportunity to fill out this survey, so please encourage your parents to do so if they haven't already.
Thank you, Eva. Yes, this message is especially to the parents who are listening. And kids, please make sure your parents hear this message. We are creating an amazing course for our big dreamers between the ages of 4 and 13. The course will include materials taught by Eva about key personal development principles, such as developing self-confidence, practicing gratitude, implementing the productivity strategies your children need to learn to turn their big dreams into the reality. We also get asked by all our friends and family and even members of our audience about our top parenting tips, as everyone is so impressed with what Eva is accomplishing with the podcast. If you would like to receive our initial set of these online course materials that we're developing, then please go to dreambigpodcast.com/survey. That's dreambigpodcast.com/survey to fill out a short survey. For the first 100 people only, we will be sharing the initial lessons we have developed, which includes engaging video lessons as well as accompanying worksheets. We are going to be over-delivering in a huge way on this course. I can't even put into words how excited we are because we truly believe it will be a game changer for our young big dreamers. These principles are not taught in school, and all the feedback we get all the time from our listeners who connect with Eva, that they love to hear from her because she is their peer. If you're interested, it only takes 5 minutes of your time, and we know it's valuable. That's why we appreciate it. We're not selling anything at this time. It's free to participate, and we will be happy to reward you with videos when they come. Thank you so much for participating, and we'll look forward to our responses at dreambigpodcast.com/survey.
Thank you, Mom. I'm so excited about the course we are creating as well. Remember, big dreamers, to ask your parents to listen to this, as this is the last week to fill out the survey. It is time for you now to enjoy our discussion with the master interviewer, Cal Fussman. My mom and I were so fortunate to have actually met Cal in Los Angeles to do the interview. Most of our interviews are done over Skype because our guests are in different cities around the world. But this interview, we actually go to meet our guest, and Cal was so kind to even take my mom and I for ice cream after the interview. I will also be on Cal's hit podcast called Big Questions in coming weeks, so please check out his podcast and we'll let you know when my interview is published. Cal Fussman is widely considered to be one of the world's most skilled interviewers, so you can imagine how excited I was to speak and learn from him. Over the course of his incredible career, Cal has interviewed Muhammad Ali, Mikhail Gorbachev, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, Robert De Niro, and hundreds of others who shaped the last half century. Cal has so many interesting stories from his incredible career that this interview actually went about an hour, longer than our typical 20 to 30-minute interview. But there was so much gold in the interview that we decided to leave it unedited and let you enjoy our whole discussion. As always, we have show notes at dreambigpodcast.com/85, where we will include links to everything we discuss in the interview. Without further ado, here's our interview with Cal. Let's roll the tape. Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. I was so excited for the interview today, and I still am.
And me too.
You know, I'm curious, when did you start your love for speaking to people and being a journalist, writer, speaker?
That's
so many wonderful things.
That is a tough question because they all came at different times. So when oh my goodness, you're in second grade?
Third.
You're in third grade. When I was in second grade, we had a terrible moment. I was sitting in the classroom, and teacher, Miss Jaffe, she went out of the room, and she came back, and she was like a ghost, that she was that white.
Whoa.
And same clothes, same everything, but she was just different. And she started to talk so calmly that it was scary. And she told us the president had been shot. That president's name was John F. Kennedy.
Oh my God.
This was November 22nd, 1963. And we went home and we found out that the president had died. And so that night, my parents did not want me to feel bad or sad or nervous. And so they told me, Cal, this has happened before in our country's history. And we have a system in place. And in that system, the vice president steps up to become the president. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, everything is going to be just the same as it was this morning. We're going to have breakfast. Everything's going to be okay. So we want you to get a good night's sleep. My parents did really good that night. And I sat down at the table and I was thinking, this new president, his name is Lyndon B. Johnson. I wonder what he's thinking. He probably always wanted to be the president. Is he happy to be the president? But he can't be happy because he's only president because of something very sad that happened. And then I thought, maybe he's scared that somebody will try and come after him too. So I didn't know what he was feeling, what he was thinking. And I picked up a pencil and a piece of paper, and I wrote, Dear President Johnson, how does it feel? And I asked him what it felt like in that moment. And I put the letter in an envelope, and the next day, I got the stamps out. Stamps were different in those days. You had to lick them. And you licked the stamp and put it in the corner. And I went to the mailbox. I didn't tell anybody, and I dropped the letter into the mailbox. Sent it to the White House.
Wow.
President Lyndon B. Johnson to the White House, Washington, D.C. And my mom and dad were right. A couple days later, everything kind of returned to normal. And I forgot about the letter. And then, 6 months later, my mom comes running up the steps of our apartment holding a letter in her hands.
Oh my.
It was from the White House. It was from the president to me.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
yeah, it made me a really big man in school. Everybody wanted to see the letter, and people wanted to hold the letter. And it taught me something that you probably know doing this podcast. A good question can get you to some of the most interesting and powerful people on earth.
Yeah.
And that's how it got started for me.
Wow. That's amazing. You actually got a letter from the White House from the president in second grade.
And I should have brought it here to show you. But I will show it to you some other time. We'll go out and get some ice cream or something.
Okay. And, like you said earlier, a good question, you start things with a good question. I've heard you say before in your talks, like, that a question from the heart really, opens up, the interview. And that's why I asked you how you became what you are now.
And that's why that was a great question. And you know something? I'm writing about a book about questions. And one of the first things that I thought, what's your favorite question, Cal? And my favorite questions start with the word that you used, how. Because when you think about it, how is a great way to start a question, because you can never get a one-word answer. If you ask how, somebody's got to open up. Even if they don't know the answer, they got to start thinking about how. And if they do know the answer, when you start to talk about it, they could find out that there's a lot more behind that how than they originally said. So you started with a great question, and you took it to a very good place. And now I'm starting to think, wow, but her question was bigger than that. Because she wanted to know how I started to speak, how I started to write. And all those things came afterward. So when I was in high school, I already knew that I wanted to write for a newspaper.
Huh.
And that's because of the president. His name was Richard Nixon. And he got into some trouble.
What kind?
What kind? Well, the people that he had working for him, they went and burglarized the headquarters of the party that was against the president, the Democratic Party. Richard Nixon was a Republican, and they burglarized the headquarters of the Democratic Party at a hotel called the Watergate.
Wow.
And people found out about it, and it became big news every day. And because of this burglary, and because he tried to cover it up, the president did, but there were tapes of him talking about it. And some reporters, principally from the Washington Post, they found out about it, and they told the world.
Wow.
So I learned how, by writing, you could deliver the truth. And that made me want to write for newspapers too. So that's how I got started as a writer.
That's really cool.
And the third part of your question is, how did you become a speaker? I never spoke until a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because I met a guy who was trying to write a book, and he needed help on interviewing and writing. And we started to talk, and as I tried to help him, he started to help me see a different side of myself. because I never thought really about questions. I was just asking them. But when I had to explain to him, how do you ask questions? It forced me to learn something about myself. And then he introduced me to people who said, why don't you come and tell us about it? So I went and gave a speech. And then more people wanted me to speak. And then more. And then more. And then the big moment came. You asked me to be on your podcast.
That's really cool. So you became a writer because of the president,
Right?
and you became a speaker because of that guy.
That's right. His name is Alex.
Oh, that's my dad's name.
We got a lot in common.
Yeah, and speaking of in common, we were listening to your Kobe Bryant, your interview with him, and you said that you didn't have much in common with him. He was a basketball player, and he went straight to the NBA. And you are a journalist, speaker, and a writer. And even though you guys were different, you guys both did really big things, do really big things. So I was wondering if you think that any two people can become friends, even with different backgrounds, if they have interest in each other.
100% yes. The interesting thing about interviewing Kobe Bryant was I went in thinking, what do we have in common? He's a basketball player who, when we watched him on television or in an arena, you could just see in his eyes all he wanted to do was win. And you know something, and you tell me because you got a lot of experience about as an interviewer. When I go to interview somebody, I never really go to win or to beat somebody. I go to come together with somebody. So I thought, what do I have in common with Kobe? Because he lives to beat people.
Yeah.
And I live to bring people together. And the fascinating thing about our conversation was I found out that what we had in common, at our core, was we are both really curious people.
That's cool.
Do you think most of the people you meet are curious?
Yeah, most of the people I meet are definitely curious about the world and other people. So, yeah. And I was wondering, you've done like so many interviews and interviewed like so many people. But when did you really feel like you thought that you really got interviewing people and that you were great at it? When did you feel that?
Wow. Well, there was a moment where I knew I was good. And that has to come before you think that you're great.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. I go to college, University of Missouri. It's right in the middle of Missouri, right in the middle of the country. They got football team. It's a great place to go to school. But it was kind of famous for its journalism department. And so you had people from all over America coming to Columbia, Missouri to study journalism. And there was such a big department and so many people that they had 2 school newspapers plus a newspaper in the journalism school plus a newspaper in the town.
Wow.
So when I got there as a freshman, right out of high school, I wanted to write big things right away. I wanted to cover the football team. Only there were so many people in front of me because I was a freshman. It was my first year. They were in their second year. They were sophomores or their third year juniors or their fourth year seniors. So they weren't going to let me cut in the line. I had to wait and write about other things until I could write about the Missouri football team, because that was kind of the biggest thing in town.
Yeah.
So what happens is I said, okay, and a lot of young people do this. I'll just tag along. Just watch. Just go to the games with the guys who are writing. Listen to them talk. Learn what it's about. And this goes by first game, second game, third game. I got a chance to travel to places like Mississippi and Wisconsin. I was seeing America. It was a great time. And then I think it was the fifth game of the season. It was at the University of Nebraska. And I was sitting up in the stands, and Missouri was not supposed to win because Nebraska had a great team. And Missouri made a big comeback and won.
Wow.
So I had these questions that I had to ask.
How did they do it? Like, how did they do it?
Right.
Yeah.
And what did the coach on the other team feel while this was happening? And so I felt like I had to get in the locker room. I had to ask my questions. But how? I had no press pass to get in the locker room. I was sitting in the stands with the rest of the fans. So I couldn't get to where the players or the coaches were. But then I had this idea. I saw all the photographers on the field. And I thought, hold on. They're wearing press passes. They had them around their neck. Their work is done. They were shooting the game, but there's no more game to photograph. So I went down and I asked the photographer, hey, can I borrow your press pass? And he said, sure. So I put the pass around my neck and I walked into the locker rooms. And the head coach of the University of Nebraska, Tom Osborne, was being interviewed by a lot of reporters. And I got in the pack, and he finished his answer, and all of a sudden, I just blurted out my question. And he looked at me when I did that, and I knew it was a good question because it made him think. He didn't just start to give an answer. He had to look up in the air and think about it. And then when he started to talk, I saw all the other reporters writing in their pads what he was saying. And that's when I knew, okay, I can be one of them. I belong. And so that was the start.
Wow. That's amazing.
But you're already doing that when you were 2 or 3.
Yeah, about 3.5.
So, like, you're 14 years ahead of me.
Well, I don't think I'm as great as you yet.
Well,
because you've had a lot of experience.
but look how good you are. You started with the right first question. You're listening carefully to what I say. Your next question is following my answer. And so you are already a highly skilled interviewer.
Thank you. But, like, I haven't had, like, these, like, people like the former U.S. President Jimmy Carter or the Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos or, let's say...
So you're looking for some big
Yeah.
guests here.
Yeah.
But what's the name of your podcast?
Dream big.
So if you dream big, I think you're going to get those people. Would you like to interview Donald Trump, President Trump?
Maybe.
Would you be scared?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's the president.
Right?
Yeah, he's the president, and I just feel like really small compared to him. He's like that does like way bigger things than me.
Right, but
So
you're a person who has questions. He's a person, and trust me, I interviewed him. He's got a lot of answers.
you interviewed him?
I did.
Wow.
I interviewed him 2 times, but this was long before he was the president. And this is a good point. I interviewed him when he had the biggest reality television show in the country. Now, if I said to you, would you be nervous if you were interviewing somebody on a reality television show? I don't think you would be. I don't think you would be.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that there's no reason to be nervous about interviewing anybody. You're just asking questions and hoping to get good answers.
Yeah.
They're just people.
Yeah. They're like the rest of us. They do really big things, but they're people like the rest of us, and everybody can do what they do. Well,
Not everybody can be the president.
Yeah,
But
but we can do big things. We all can do big things.
we can do huge things. You know, when you think about it, just helping somebody who is in need is a very big thing.
Yeah. Just like, or doing something kind. Yeah, like you said, helping somebody in need.
Yeah, a simple act of kindness
Yeah.
could be, in that moment, the biggest act in the world.
Yeah.
Helping somebody who maybe doesn't have a home or doesn't have food, and going to a place where they're serving food to people, especially do that on Thanksgiving. You see what a warm feeling it puts in your heart.
Yeah. If you could do any act of kindness in the world, what would it be?
What a great question.
And why?
See, this shows you what a good interviewer you are, because you're just paying attention to my last question, and then you jumped on it and said, okay, what do you think, Cal? What do you think about that? What would you like to do? Wow, what's the kindest thing I can do? One of the things that I've started to do is give talks to people about questions. So I'll give you an example. This is a kind thing I did. After I spoke about questions, there was a long line of people who came up to see me. And there was a woman. She was the president of an aviation company. And she said to me, Cal, I just got to know, how do you do it? How do you get up in front of hundreds and thousands of people and talk? It's my dream to be able to do that. But I'm scared. And I said, well, you're not alone, because for some people, that's the biggest fear in the world. To get up in front of not even hundreds of people, just to get up in front of a class. For a lot of people, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And she said, I can't do it. It's my dream to get up at a business conference and speak, but I'm too scared. So I said, okay, let me ask her some questions. And I said, well, do you think that you could write out your speech? She said, oh, yeah, I can write out my speech. And I said, could you write out your speech and memorize your speech? She said, oh, yes, I could definitely write out my speech and memorize it. I said, well, could you write out your speech and memorize it and then speak it into the mirror? She said, all alone? I said, yeah, all alone. She said, yeah, I could stand in front of a mirror and I could give my speech. Nobody's there? Fine. And I said, well, could you do that like 25 times until you could say that speech anytime, anywhere, because you had memorized it completely? She said, yeah, I could do that. And I said, well, then could you walk into the kitchen and do that speech in front of your family, somebody in your family? She said, yeah, probably. I said, well, could you imagine yourself in front of the mirror doing your speech when you're in the kitchen, speaking it out to somebody in your family? She said, yeah, I could do that. And then I said, well, could you imagine walking out onto a stage and when you looked out in the crowd, you just imagined the big mirror and you just gave the speech that you've memorized and given so many times in front of the mirror? And she said, maybe. And then about 3 months later, I got an email from her. She said, you're never going to believe it. I said, what? She said, I got up in front of a business group and I gave my talk and I got a big ovation and they want me to come back and speak some more.
Wow.
So that's a way that I found I can help people by passing on my gift.
That's cool. Can you give some advice, some more advice about speaking to our big dreamers out there?
Sure, big dreamers. When you get up in front of everybody, do not be nervous. There's nothing to be nervous about.
Yeah.
It's just you talking. The only thing, there is one thing to be nervous about. If you're going up and you don't know what to say.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared.
Yeah, and the worst thing that can happen isn't so bad. I mean, if you're not prepared, well, that's pretty bad, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's like you're not going to jail for it.
No, that's a great point. And not only that, but some people go up and they're not prepared, and all of a sudden they can just start talking.
Yeah, they just like speak from the heart.
That's right. And so they find out that they have something deep within them that they didn't even know was there until they got up to speak.
Yeah.
And so I would tell the big dreamers not to be nervous, but to make sure they're prepared.
Yeah.
I would tell the big dreamers to practice in front of a mirror. And not only that, but to practice 2 or 3 or 4 times. And they're going to see at the end of the 4th time or the 5th time, they're going to know it stone cold. And so they won't be nervous at all. They won't need a piece of paper even.
Yeah.
It'll be in their memory. Because think about it. I'll bet you that you have a favorite song.
Yeah.
Could you sing it?
Well, I can, but not right now.
Well, oh, I think you can. Okay, let's hear. Let's hear.
Go on.
I think you can.
Do you have a favorite song?
No. I think you can. Little karaoke time. Let's go.
Well, it's not exactly my favorite song, but I've heard it a couple times, and we sing it at a show in school.
I think you can do it. Look, here we are. We're just talking about not being afraid, right? About just going up and here's the thing. It's only me. You know,
Yeah.
Whatever you sing, I predict there's a 99.9% chance that I am going to applaud when you get done. So there is nothing for you to be nervous about.
Yeah, there's you and then like about 1 million people behind that camera.
Okay, 1 million people. That's a lot of people. But they're not really here. I think you can do this.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is not America's Got Talent. It's not American Idol. You're just singing to me.
Yeah. Well,
What's the song about?
I don't know if you'd know it. I'll sing the first part of it.
Okay.
But it's like my grandma always has it in the car. It's like about this girl who can do a lot of things, but somebody's ignoring her.
That's pretty interesting. How does it go?
I rode my bicycle past your window last night. I roller skated to your door at daylight. It almost seems like you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need. Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I think that we should get together and try them out, you see. I've been looking around, well, you got something I need. Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key.
Woo! That's beautiful.
That's the first part of it. I haven't memorized the second part.
Now, how did you come across that song?
Well, my grandma, she always has these amazing songs in her car. Her friend made a couple songs, and there's also, she knows another person who made a couple songs, like about 4 of them. And so she always has like the songs in the car, CDs. She drives a convertible, so
That
we
is a-
usually sings the songs in the car.
Perfect song for a convertible. I could see you in high school in a convertible with 4 or 5 other girls all singing that song at the top of your lungs, having a blast.
There's also another part. I think I may have remembered it. Wait. So it goes like this. I asked your mother if you were at home. She said yes, but you aren't alone. Sometimes I think that you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need. Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. I got a brand new key. I think that we should get together and try them out, you see. So then that's another part.
That's fantastic. You got such a beautiful voice.
Thank you. And then I know another song, but I won't sing it right now since we're in the middle of an interview.
Oh, okay. Well, it could, the interview could go to music. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You start talking about something and things shift and you go with the flow.
Yeah. There's also this song that's called Been 14 Days Since I Don't Know When. I think it's called that.
And how does that one go?
Been 14 days since I don't know when. I just saw her with my best friend. You know what I mean? And then it goes like this other like beat music and stuff like that.
That sounds great.
So,
How much time do you spend a day listening to music?
about at least maybe sometimes half an hour.
And how much time a day do you spend thinking about questions?
Another half an hour at least every day, like half an hour of music, half an hour of thinking about questions.
And when you think about questions, do you go to a special place to think about questions? Do you have a place where good questions come to you?
Well, in my room, I have a like mini couch in my room, and I usually like sit there, and I have this window in my room. I just pull it open, and I like stare right at everything that is outside it, and I listen around me, and good questions come to me. And then in my backyard is usually where I spend time thinking about songs.
Do you think most people listen? Because sometimes, I don't know if you have ever observed this, sometimes you watch a group of people, right? And one person is talking, and the other three are not saying anything, but you could look at their faces and you can almost know that they're just thinking about what they're going to say next
Yeah.
instead of listening to the person who's talking.
Yeah. I've actually seen some, in school, I think last month it was, we did this thing where we were doing speeches in class. Well, kind of like speeches. We listened to the person in front of us, and we kind of add on to that there.
Oh,
But one kid in my class, a couple of them actually, were like, I could tell they weren't listening to the person in front of them, and were thinking instead somehow, were thinking about like random things about like what they were going to say. But I was thinking, how could they think about what to say if they can't listen to the person in front of them?
this is a key point. And when you think of the big dreamers out there, listening is so important.
Yeah.
You know those big billboards on the highway?
Mm-hmm.
I was once asked by another big time podcaster just like you. His name is Tim Ferriss. He said, if you could put any message on a billboard, what would you put? And I told him, one word, listen. Because when we're not listening, so many things that can help us are just passing by, and we're not able to grab them. And one of the great things and skills that you have as an interviewer, I can already tell you're a great listener. I can also tell the way you look me in the eyes that you're paying attention to me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people are looking down, it's hard to connect.
Yeah.
The eyes are a good way to make a connection. Also, another good way is sometimes you like shake hands, or you put your hand on somebody's shoulder. It's very lightly. It's just a little tap just to say, I'm with you.
Yeah.
That can work.
Yeah.
What are the big dreamers' big questions?
Well, the biggest question I think I've got so far, I took like a couple, like 2 days, like every 2 days or something. But the biggest question I think I've got so far, or the question that I really had to think about, what's next for you? What do you think that's gonna happen later in your life?
What do you think's gonna happen?
Well, I think that probably I want to keep on doing interviews, and I'm going to get bigger people, more amazing people like Oprah Winfrey on my podcast.
She would be a great guest.
Yeah. And I want to have like my mom, she has her own like online classes, speaks live. I also want the podcast translated in like different languages so that people all around the world who can't understand English can hear it in a different way, a different language. Like books, you can have them in different languages.
That is a great idea. I didn't even think of that. It's interesting because your goals are not to do something completely different. They're just to make what you're doing more accessible to other people.
Yeah.
And if you got Oprah Winfrey, any singers you'd like to bring on?
Well, there was a girl who won America's Got Talent about how many years ago? I think like 2 years ago. Last year, there was that girl who spoke with the puppets. And then the year before that, her name was Grace. I forgot her last name, but her name was Grace. And she sang amazing songs. I forgot how they go, but they were amazing. I just remember her it felt like she was singing them from her heart. And she's about 13 now, I guess.
Oh, that's a great guest. That's a fantastic guest.
Yeah.
And you could sing with her. Would that be hard for you? To sing with somebody who's that good?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to sing in front of other people and to sing with people who have more experience and are better than me at singing.
But the thing about singing is all you got to do is close your eyes and sing.
Yeah.
It's fear, being afraid is an interesting topic. Because we're all afraid of something.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, and this is what Kobe Bryant taught me. I'll tell you a story he told me. I think he was about 4 years old. He was doing karate. He's either 4 or 6. Don't want to get it wrong. And he was a white belt, meaning he was just getting started. And in order to move up and get a higher belt, you have to do all kinds of different tasks. And one of them is you got to fight. You got to fight somebody who's better than you. And so he was called out on the mat. And his opponent came out with a brown belt, which is way up, almost a black belt.
Oh my God.
And Kobe started crying. He was running off the mats because this guy's going to hurt me.
Yeah.
And Kobe's mother ran over and started screaming, "You get back out there right now." And he went out there and the battle started and the brown belt was beating him. But all of a sudden, Kobe noticed that he was throwing some blows and he was landing. And he survived. And then he was riding back in the car. And he thought to himself, what was I so afraid of? Was I afraid of the color of his belt? Was I afraid of him? And it gave him, at a really young age, a big lesson that if you can be aware of your fears, then you can get control over them. And they won't really bother you. But if your fears and what you're afraid of makes you just get tight in a ball and you're standing there paralyzed, then your fears control you. So a lot of it is just in your mind, saying, what really do I gotta be afraid of? That's a good lesson for big dreamers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, what do you need to be afraid of? Yeah.
Now, some things you got to be afraid of. It's smart to be
Yeah.
afraid. You're not going to want to jump off a building or a cliff
Yeah,
or a
like
waterfall.
in Harry Potter, it's smart to be afraid of Voldemort,
There you
the
go.
main killer.
That's right. 100%. So it's wise to be aware of what to be afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good lesson for our big dreamers. It's wise to be aware of what there is to be afraid of, but some things you don't have to be afraid of. Yeah.
Yeah, some things you don't, but some things you do. But if you're aware of what you shouldn't be afraid of and what you should be afraid of, then you're probably going to make better choices.
Yeah, that's true. What are you afraid of?
Wow, what a great question.
Yeah.
Oh, you are a skilled interviewer. What am I afraid of? Wow. I think I'm most afraid of disappointing myself, of not trying my hardest to do my best. And because all we can do is do our best. And if we're doing our best, you should really have a good feeling because you know you tried your hardest. So I'm afraid of getting lazy. I'm afraid of not getting the most out of my time. I can't tell you that I'm afraid of sharks because I once swam with a shark. In some places you can do that. The sharks won't bother you.
Yeah.
But like we were just saying, if you're in a place where the shark is hungry, then you should be afraid.
Yeah.
So fear is something. A guy gave me some advice. He was an attorney. His name was F. Lee Bailey. And he said, fear is something you should pick up and throw against the wall because it keeps coming back and trying to disturb you again and again and again. You got to keep throwing it against the wall.
Yeah. That's true. You gotta just keep pushing it back.
Yeah. And why do you think we're afraid?
I think we're afraid because
That's a big question.
I think we are afraid. We are afraid because it seems like the thing we're afraid of is huge, and it seems, I guess, like it's like.
But that's what Kobe was talking about. He made that brown belt huge.
Yeah.
He had a choice.
Yeah.
He could have looked at that brown belt and said, oh my God, that brown belt is huge. It's way over my head. That guy's going to beat me up. Or he had a choice to make it small. He could have said, yeah, that guy's wearing a brown belt, but he's still a kid. He's not much
Yeah.
older than I am.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that question you asked me, it was kind of like sometimes my mom asks me if I don't know a question. If you knew, what would it be? If you knew the question, what would it be? And for me, that's a really hard question because I don't know what the question is. And how would I know what would it be if I knew, because I don't know.
Oh, okay, so this is getting very deep.
Yeah.
It's always good, I find, to just let the conversation flow where it naturally goes. So we're talking about fear, we're talking about questions. Do you think some people are scared to ask questions that they should ask?
Yeah, I think some people are scared. Like me, I don't know why, but I'm scared of walking up to somebody and asking the question that I want to ask.
You're scared to walk up to somebody? Like, give me an example.
Like, let's say the waiter at a store, like, I'm scared sometimes to talk to people. Like, a waiter, if I want something, for me, it's, like, hard to, like, walk up to the counter and say to them, like, I asked you if I could have, like, this, and you didn't bring it. Could you
Okay,
bring
now,
it?
all right, so let's
Yeah.
look at that. Let's look at that. You asked for something, right?
Yeah.
And probably your mom or your dad's going to pay for it,
Yeah.
right? You didn't get what you wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're asking something for something that you were going to pay for, which is yours,
Yeah.
right? And so really there's no reason for you to be scared of asking for something that you deserve. But I can kind of understand it, and here's why I can understand. Now, what if instead of quietly walking over and saying, "Excuse me, can I have that butterscotch pudding that I asked for?" What if you just got up and start waving like you were on a deserted island and you had to attract an airplane that was overhead? Wouldn't that make the waiter or the waitress run over to you to say, "What's wrong?"
Yeah.
And then you could say, "Well, I just wanted my butterscotch pudding."
Yeah.
Do you like butterscotch pudding?
No, I don't like butterscotch, but chocolate pudding would be nice.
There we go. What's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream, vanilla. I don't like chocolate ice cream for some reason.
Like, do you like vanilla with chocolate chips in it?
No, yeah,
It's just got to be plain vanilla.
Yeah, sometimes vanilla with like rainbow sprinkles or something.
Oh, I love rainbow sprinkles.
And sometimes cookie dough ice cream.
Cookie dough's a big hit.
Yeah.
You know who I met? I met Ben and Jerry. You ever go into their ice cream shops?
No.
So these two guys started a whole ice cream franchise. And the big thing about Ben and Jerry's was they put big chunks of chocolate or nuts inside the ice cream. So I guess you wouldn't be a big Ben and Jerry's fan because you just like the ice cream plain and vanilla straight.
Yeah. And this is one of my questions before we wrap the interview up. What is your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream, I'm glad you asked me that, is mint chip.
Huh.
So it's got little pieces of chocolate in it, but then it's got that fresh taste of mint. You know what? I think there's an ice cream place right across the street, and it would be my honor if I could take you over there and get you either vanilla. You like a cone or you like it in the cup?
Cone.
Cone? It would be my pleasure to get you a vanilla cone for doing such a great job. In fact, you definitely deserve 2 scoops. 3?
It's fine, but thank you.
You are sensational.
Thank you.
Let's get some ice cream.
Okay. And for my last question.
Oh, you try to trick me. Because you said, see, this is actually good. This is a good point we're going to make here. A lot of times you say, from my last question, right? And now we just talked about ice cream, right? So now I'm thinking, yeah, let's go get some ice cream. That makes me very relaxed. And then you say, oh, I have one more question. But now I'm very relaxed. So go ahead and ask your question.
For my last question, it would be, where can our audience find out more about you and what you do?
Oh, I'm really glad you asked me that question. That's a great question. I guess I would say, if they want to hear another podcast now, I think they should just keep coming back to yours. Big dreamers, got to go to where the big dream is. But I have a podcast with the word big in it too. It's called Big Questions.
Oh, that's cool. So big dreamers, definitely check out that too. Big questions.
Big dreamers and big questions, you see, we got something in common.
Yep.
Now let's go get some ice cream.
Okay. Bye, big dreamers.
Cheers.
That was so much fun chatting with Cal. He had so many great practical tips that I feel will make me a better interviewer. And I'm sure you all understand the importance of developing your skills as a listener and asking great questions. Be sure to check out our show notes at dreambigpodcast.com/85 for links to everything we discussed in the episode. Also, as my mom mentioned, we currently have a limited time offer for those who fill out our survey at dreambigpodcast.com/survey. My parents and I are having so much fun designing and creating this course, and we really would love to get your feedback so we can make sure we create something that will truly make an impact. This is the last week the survey will be online though, so please be sure to submit your response now. If you are interested in getting our initial lessons free of charge. On a separate note, if you would like one of our customized Dream Big journals, customized with your face and name as an astronaut, then go to dreambigpodcast.com/journal to claim your free journal while supplies are still available. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Eva Cartman reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional, you need to make them essential. So take massive action to turn those big dreams into reality. Live with passion, the way life is meant to be. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!